Good morning, Moray Rabotai. We're continuing on Masachet Berachot, and we are holding on Daf Lamed, Vav Amud Aleph, almost by 2 dots, about 15 lines up from the bottom. And the Limud of Amud Yomi for Chodesh Heshvan has been sponsored by Shahab and Shenaz Rabbi for the health, prosperity of their family. Has been also sponsored by the Hami family, Leidu Nishmat Yosef ben Alek Simcha, Alek Simcha Bat Rachel, Aliza Tal Yosala Bar Hanoch Feivel, and the entire learning of KBT for this week has been sponsored by Dr. Omid and Kelly Shaye for the Hatzlacha and prosperity of their family in every aspect of their life. Amen. Says the Gemara. We have been speaking about caper bushes and caper berries. And by the way, these are things that are you could buy in the Amazon. This is daily life. People have it with tuna fish, with other things. This is something that you deal with on daily basis, and whether or not you have to what bracha you make on them, and whether or not you need to give masrot from it in Chutz La'aretz, and for all the Zionists in the Chevra, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, do you have to be careful from masrot, from orla, from all the things that you deal with? And in Chutz La'aretz also, we have someone in the Chevra over here that here now that actually bought a massive field of many acres that produces different types of fruits. So as a Jewish owner, or someone that brings food to me, right? You have to understand if you have to give or you have to give masrot, all those things are daily. You don't think like that because you go to the restaurant, eat food. You don't care how it's made. You go to the supermarket, you buy it, and you don't care much of how it's made. So this is as tedious as this. The next page is going to be, and it is going to be a little bit of back and forth, which seems that's relevant to this layer of this stuff. But the said, if you apply it to areas of halakha that are less on the front of the person's mind, you will see actually that it has relevance to our daily life as it is. And again, the kafrisin, the caper berries and capers, basically something that you could buy on Amazon, and they are available in stores, and you have them actually served to you in restaurants as well. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. So we discussed before the Machloket Shmuel and his Talmud Rav Yehuda of a bracha you make, and even though Gemara said, even though that Shmuel praised Rav Yehuda, halacha is like Shmuel, not like Rav Yehuda, and Shmuel. Now the Gemara continues on that subject of slaf, of the caper bush. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, slaf shel orla bechutza la'aretz zorek et ha'evyonot ve'ochel et ha'kafrisin. A caper bush, we mentioned caper bush has 4 different edible items, 2 of which are considered more of the ikar, of the main fruits, if you want to call it, and 2 of them are more of a side product. We'll make it over here. If you have slaf, and it has 1, 2, 3, and 4. First is evyonot, then is kafrisin, then you have the actual berries and the alim, right? So these 2 we're going to separate, and between these 2 you'll see the Gemara is going to go through differentiations in halacha of brachot and masrot and orla, and this is going to be our main discussion today. Okay, so says the Gemara, a slaf shel orla. That means you planted this caper bush, And within the first 3 years, we have the halachot of orla. What do you do with the fruits of the first 3 years? Nothing. You do nothing with them. It's asur to have hana'ah from them, right? The fourth year is netarvai. We spoke about netarvai, kerem revai. So says the Gemara, in chutz la'aretz, when you live in Los Angeles, if you have a caperberry in sometimes they grow in your yard or in your if you own a garden, or especially if you're in Lake Arrowhead and types of places like that, you could just have it grow somewhere there. Says the Gemara, this you cannot eat, but the kafrisin you can eat. In other words, evyonot, the Gemara says, is considered the fruit, the peri, and kafrisin, which is the husk around the fruit, that is not considered part of the fruit. Therefore, you could eat the kafrisin, even though that the tree is orla. Is within the first 3 years, the kafrisin is considered now the fruit. You could eat them in chutz la'aretz. Why only in chutz la'aretz? Which indicates in Eretz Yisrael, if you have slav, if you have caper bush, in Eretz Yisrael you cannot eat both of them, right? And that's very strange. Why is it that in Eretz Yisrael something would be considered different than in chutz la'aretz? Says the Gemara, the memra, the evyonot peri v'kafrisin lav peri. You want to tell me that evyonot, the top one, is considered a fruit and the bottom one is not considered a fruit? Or minhu? We have a question that's a strong question on this. Al mineni tzbal ha'alim v'al omer bore peri adama. When you have slav, when you have this caper bush on the two top one, on the evyonot and the kafrisin, you say bore peri adama. On the berries, right? On the berries and on the this is temarot, and the alim, right? And these two you say because they're considered side products, but on the two top of Yonot and Kafrisin, you say the actual bracha. So minenis bal ha'alim val tmarot omer bore pri adam, val ha'yonot val Kafrisin omer bore pri ha'etz. So you have 4 fruits of one tree. What bracha do you make on them? The main fruits you say ha'etz because it's a tree. And the side fruits that are not as important, they're not peri ha'etz, because that's not the fruit of this tree, but they are still produce of the ground. So you say bore pri adama, one level less. What does this braita indicate? That the husk of evyonot, which is kafrisin, also is considered what? The fruit. So now we have a real problem, because we just said, if you're in Los Angeles and you have caper bush, you could, within the first 3 years, you could eat kafrisin, which is the husk of the fruit, indicating that that's not fruit. But then you ask the Rabbi, what bracha do I make on it when I eat it? It's ha'etz. The ha'etz. So then you tell me that it is the fruit, unlike the berries and the leaves, that is hadama. So says the Gemara, what do you do with this apparent contradiction of the status of the husk of this fruit? Lememra de evyonot peri v'kafrisin lav peri urminu al minenis ba'alim v'atmarot omer bore pri adama al evyonot v'al kafrisin omer bore pri ha'etz. Says the Gemara, no. Who the Amar Rabbi Akiva? The one that we said that you eat on the 3rd year, within the 3rd year you could eat kafrisin, he holds like Rabbi Akiva. Now, here we have Rabbi Akiva versus Rabbi Eliezer, his Rabbi. And Rabbi Akiva is what we're going to be dealing with right now. Rabbi Akiva holds that this is not considered fruit in chutz la'aretz. So let's read it together. Ditnan, we learned, or the Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer omer slaf mitaser tmarot ve'evyonim ve'kafrisin. Rabbi Eliezer holds that when you have this fruit, What parts of it do you have to give maaser from? Mitaser tmarot ve'evyonot ve'kavrisim. The 1, 2, and 3. These 3, you need to give maaser from. You have to tithe. This is already considered nothing, right? Those leaves. You don't have to give maaser on that. But these are considered fruits of the tree. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva Omer, En mitaser ela evyonot bilvad. Rabbi Akiva says, don't waste your time. These 2 are not the fruits. Only evyonot is the fruit. Only evyonot. You don't give maserot on anything else. So now you have a shita of Rabbi Akiva, a legitimate shita that holds that only evyonot, only the actual caper berries or caper fruits are considered the fruits of the tree. The rest of the side products, you want to eat them, gewaltig, gesundere hate. You don't want to eat them, gesundere hate. You don't give ma'aserot on it because it's not considered halachically the fruits of this tree. The tree of slav, of caper bush, has only one fruit, says Rabbi Akiva. What is it? The main fruit. The rest, the side products, you want to eat, you could eat some branches as well. It's not considered fruit, and therefore you don't give maserot on it. So when we say that you could eat the kafrisin on the 2nd, 3rd year, when it's orla, he held, whoever said that, he held like Rabbi Akiva, that kafrisin is not considered fruit. If you would ask Rabbi Eliezer, he would tell you, of course you cannot eat it in the first 3 years, because that is also considered part of the fruit. The fruit and its husk around it that protects it, both of them are considered the fruit. You cannot eat or have hana'ah from them in the 3 years, the 3 first years of orla. Okay? Now, as we're going to see, keeping orla, and this happens, Rabotai, you go buy fruits. Many people like planting. You go buy fruit trees. We used to do this when my father was much younger. We loved having fruit trees all over the place. And when you buy fruit trees, you have to be careful to keep away from them for the first 3 years. Here, many people do. My friend, one of my friends right now, actually gave me a. This will pick it up. He planted for me a etrog tree, and this year was the 3rd year, and he had etrogim on it. He planted 2.5 years ago. So can you use it or not? Right? These are daily costs. You go, if you buy, let's say I'm telling you why these are relevant to your daily life. You go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you buy a tree that's already 3 years, right? So you want to transfer it to your garden, to your backyard. Does the clock start over again or not? Yes, no, depends. You see, that's a Jewish community. And all the variations within 1.5 seconds. Amazing. So if we had cherry trees that we planted in our yard, and the gardener actually brought them without any dirt. You see, we saw the roots. It was put in a bag, not to get dry, and he planted them. So if you do such a thing, that you bring it without enough dirt that it could live in it for a substantial amount of time, then the clock restarts. Even if it's 10 years old, now it's 0. For next 3 years, no benefit from the trees, from the fruits rather. But if he brings it in enough dirt and it doesn't take the dirt off, he replants it with the dirt enough that the original dirt would have been enough sufficient to live in it for a substantial amount of time, then it doesn't restart. So these are things that could happen on a daily basis. And in Chutz La'aretz, we keep Orla. Now, as we're going to see, in Chutz La'aretz, Orla is Midrabanan. So any safek that you have, you could be Mekel. So someone brings you fruits and says, I don't remember, I have this from the one that's 4 years, 5 years, 3 years. That becomes really, and I get questions on this on regular basis, when that's not the season right now for it. On regular basis, I get questions this, Rabbi, I don't remember if this is Orla or not, what do I do, right? So our Gemara today is going to be the answer to that. Says the Gemara. So we saw that there is machloket Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer as to what part of this caper bush is considered fruits, and Rabbi Akiva is very mekel. He holds only the evionot is the main fruit, and even the husk around the main fruit is not considered fruit. So says the Gemara, if that's the halacha, why is Rav not just saying halacha to Rabbi Akiva? Remember, we started the Gemara today that Rav Yehuda, the student of Rav, said in the name of Rav, right? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, slafsher orla bechutz la'aretz zorek et ha'evionot ve'ocheret ha'kafrisin. If you're within the 3-year period, you could eat the kafrisin, the husk, and you just throw out the actual fruit. Now we ended up going through a whole process of saying, who is this? And now we said it's Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds only evionot is the fruit. The husk is not a fruit. You could eat it within the 3 years, right? So the obvious question is, why wouldn't Rav just say halacha is like Rabbi Akiva? Chalas, right? Because even though that the Tanaim, see, Rav, regularly speaking, is considered an Amorah, not a Tana. If we have our back against the wall, we say, okay, Rav could argue with the Tana. But generally speaking, Rav is an Amorah. Amoraim do not disagree with Tanaim. If you already have an already existing machloket between Tanaim, in this case, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, just tell me halakha Rabbi Akiva and have a good day. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, comes out that in the 3 years of Orla, you could eat the kafrisin, and you just have to trash the evionot. So why did Rav not just say halakha Rabbi Akiva is the question of the Gemara. V'nema halakha Rabbi Akiva. Let Rav just say halakha Rabbi Akiva and chalas. Says the Gemara, no. You can't say that. I amar halakha Rabbi Akiva hava amina afilu ba'aretz. Remember what Rabbi Akiva said. I'll write it over here. Rabbi Akiva, his shita was about Maaser and in Eretz Yisrael. Both of them, right? In other words, even for Masrot, we're talking about Orla, right? We're talking about here, we're not talking about giving tithes on this. We're talking about eating it in the 3 first years. So it's a different topic than the Machloket Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. You'll see in a moment why this becomes relevant. And he's even talking about Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Akiva said, even if he lived in Eretz, even if you live in Eretz Yisrael, you don't have to give Masarot on Kafrisin, Tamarot, and Alin. You only give Masar on Evionot. That was his topic. Now, both of those topics have something on top of our discussion of Orla. Why? Let's say it outside once I have everyone's attention here, because inside it gets complicated. Orla in Eretz Yisrael, Orla in Eretz Yisrael is the Oraita, Chutz La'aretz is the Rabbanan, right? Masrot, even in Eretz Yisrael, for caper bush is the Rabbanan. Right? There's a machloket in Masechet Kiddushin in Daf Lamed Chet on page 38. What is considered a biblical obligation of tithes as far as your fruits are concerned? Is it only biblical to give maaser on your produce, meaning grain, tirosh ve'yishar, shemen and wine? Or is it, like Rabbi Yochanan says, maybe even covering the other things? So it's machloket, and kafrisin, the slaf rather, which means the caper bush, according to everybody, is the Rabbanan, even in the time of Bayit Rishon in Eretz Yisrael. Right? So Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, when they talk about this tree of the caper bush, they're dealing with maserot, which is a rabbinic thing. So it's not such a big deal for Rabbi Akiva to be mekel, to be lenient on the Rabbanan. But can I learn from that for a topic that in Eretz Yisrael would be the Oraita? Not necessarily. Our topic of Orla in Eretz Yisrael, Orla is the Oraita. If you have the fruits of a tree within the first 3 years, you go to a very special place, right? So therefore, maybe I would have thought, if you say halakha Rabbi Akiva, you can't learn that it is applicable the same way to our topic of Orla. A. B. He's saying it in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Akiva, and we're talking about Chutz La'aretz. If I would say halakha Rabbi Akiva, there would be a danger of Stephen saying, well, Rabbi, even when I go to Eretz Yisrael, I could be lenient like Rabbi Akiva. We're not saying that. We only are talking about eating this in the Shenat Orla in the first 3 years in Chutz La'aretz. Because Orla in Chutz La'aretz is the Rabbanan. So therefore, the Gemara is going to go back and forth explaining to us exactly why Rav did not say halakha Rabbi Akiva, because he's not saying like Rabbi Akiva. There is a precedent, there's a halachic concept called Kol HaMekel Be'eretz Yisrael Halakha Kimoto Bechutz La'aretz. That in certain areas of halakha, when you have a legitimate shita that is lenient in Eretz Yisrael, even though that we don't paskin like him in Eretz Yisrael, in Chutz La'aretz, you could rely on that shita, which is the reason that Rav paskin like Rabbi Akiva, but not like Rabbi Akiva completely. He's just saying to us that in Chutz La'aretz, when it comes to the halachot of Orla, by this tree of the caper bush, you could rely on shita of Rabbi Akiva in Chutz La'aretz. That's all the Gemara is going to say, right? It's more understandable when you talk about it outside. Now we're going to see the steps of that inside the Gemara. Says the Gemara. So why don't you just say halakha ke Rabbi Akiva? 12 lines up. Because Amar halakha ke Rabbi Akiva, if you would say halakha is like Rabbi Akiva, hava amina afilu be'eretz. I would have thought that halakha should be like Rabbi Akiva, even in Eretz Yisrael. Kamash Malan is teaching us that no, it's only in Chutz La'aretz. Kol HaMekel, because every case in this topic, Kol HaMekel ba'aretz, halakha kemoto b'Chutz La'aretz. Anyone that's lenient, if you find a lenient shita in Eretz Yisrael, you can rely on that shita in Chutz La'aretz, right? Aval ba'aretz lo. But in Eretz Yisrael, not. So says the Gemara, the obvious further question says, so let Rav say halakha is like Rabbi Akiva in Chutz La'aretz. Why don't you say that? So this way I know that in Eretz Yisrael halakha is not like him. The Gemara says no. He can't even say it like that. The Kol HaMekel Be'eretz Yisrael halakha kemoto b'Chutz La'aretz. The Gemara says, Amar hachi. If he said like that, hava amina hademi legabe maaser ilan. The Be'aretz kufa midrabanan. I would have thought that the only time you could rely on Rabbi Akiva in Chutz La'aretz is by Maaser Ilan, right? Remember, he's talking about Maaserot, and Maaser of Salaf in Eretz Yisrael, even in the time of Beit HaMikdash, would be rabbinic chiyuv only. From the Torah, you don't have to give Maaserot on caper bush and caper berries and fruits, even in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu in Eretz Yisrael. Done. Says the Gemara, Aval Gabe Orla, I would have thought that you cannot learn from Rabbi Akiva in Maaser for our purposes of eating it within the first 3 years, because that in Eretz Yisrael is deoraita. So it's a more chamur, it's a more severe topic. Maybe you cannot learn from that. The Be'eretz Yisrael is midoraita, ema bechutz la'aretz nami, nigzor kamash malan. That's why we learn that the halakha is like Rabbi Akiva, even though that we're talking about a more legit sugya of Orla. That's why Rav did not say halakha is like Rabbi Akiva, and he just said the halakha. It's much simpler like that. It said, in regards to the first 3 years, when it comes to Orla, you could eat the kafrisin, the husk of the tree, of the evionot, of the caper bush, and the rest of them you cannot do. Okay, says the Gemara. Ravina Ashkechel Lemar bar Rav Ashi. Ravina found his best friend's son. Ravina and Rav Ashi were the authors of Talmud Bavli, of the Gemara. So Ravina finds the son of Rav Ashi that they lived in Bavel, of course, in Chutz La'aretz. So he finds him eating the kasarik evionot v'kachir chafrizin. He was throwing out the main fruit, evionot, and he was eating kafrizin. In the years of Orla, first 3 years. So he tells him, wait, I have a patent for you. You want to eat evionot? I could even make you a heter to eat evionot itself in the first 3 years. Now you say, Rabbi, you became a Reform rabbi. How do you make a heter for evionot itself? So says Ravina, because there is a shita that's even more lenient than Rabbi Akiva. You think Rabbi Akiva is lenient? No. You have someone higher than that. It's called Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai holds that you absolutely are absolved from this slav of the caper bush. Amar le my datach, Rabbi Akiva says, I see that you are trashing evionot and eating only kafrisin. Must be you hold like who? Rabbi Akiva. So says the Gemara, de mekel v'le'avid marki bet Shammai de mekel tefe. Why don't you say the halacha is like bet Shammai and you can rely on it in Chutz La'aretz? In other words, you're using the concept of kol mekel ba'aretz halacha kemoto b'chutz La'aretz, that anyone that in Eretz Yisrael is mekel, you can rely on him in Chutz La'aretz. That's what you're using, right? So Bet Shammai is the most mekel, much more mekel than Rabbi Akiva. Why don't you use that and have the entire fruit together with the evionot in Chutz La'aretz? That's his kasha, right? Ditnan. So the unfolding of the Gemara is going to include your question as well, right? Let it unfold. Says the Gemara, Ditnan slaf bet Shammai omrim kilayim bekerem. By the fruit of slaf, let me just do this here. Bet Shammai hold that this fruit of slaf is considered kela'e kerem. Now, what is kela'e kerem? This is, you remember, last week, last shiur, we said there are concepts here that you need to know on daily life, and most people don't know most things about them. Kela'e kerem means when you have a vineyard, you cannot plant certain bushes and vegetables together. It's isur d'oraita. If you have in your yard, and many people do have in their yards wine growing in grapes, so you should ask a question: what you could plant next to it, what you can't plant next to it, right? So Bet Shammai hold salaf Bet Shammai omrim kilayim bekerem. So if you have a vineyard and you plant slaf, or you have a caper bush next to your wine, that is considered the isur of kila'e kerem. So what does that tell you? You could plant any trees next to your vine. So once Bet Shammai tell me that if you have caper bush next to your vine, that's considered kila'e kerem, they're clearly telling me that caper bush is not a tree. If it's not a tree, do you have orla? No, it's a bush. It's not a tree. So can you eat evionot within the 3 years? Absolutely, yes. So Ravina says, I found for you the shita that you can rely on to eat the evionot itself, the main fruit itself. Yeah. Well, now we'll get to the bracha just a moment. Very good question. Amazing question, right? But this brain, you have to come every day. Right? Mamash, that's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's going to ask that question. So says the Gemara. So you see from here, the Bet Shammai holds that slaf is nothing. It's not a fruit. It's a bush. So what are you not eating it? Rely on Bet Shammai in Chutz La'aretz, because Bet Shammai will tell you even in Eretz Yisrael, there's no orla. So at least in Chutz La'aretz you can rely on it, right? Says the Gemara. But wait a second. Read the rest of the Braita. You get into a deep problem over here. Says the Gemara. Bet Hillel omrim en kilayim bekerem. Bet Hillel, of course, say there's no kilay kerem. If you have caper bush next to your vine, no problem, because it's a tree, right? So that's machloket Bet Shammai Bet Hillel. Elu ve'elu. This is where the problem starts. Elu ve'elu modim shechayav be'orla. Both of them, both Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, agree that caper bush has orla in Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara says, wait a second. There's a problem. You are within the same sentence. You're contradicting yourself. You first tell me it's kilay kerem, it's kilayim, which means, by definition, means it's not a tree. And if it's not a tree, it doesn't have orla. And then at the end of the same sentence, you tell me that Bet Shammai says you have orla. Make your mind. Says the Gemara, Hagufa kasha. This is contradiction within itself. Amrat staf Bet Shammai omrim kilayim bekerem. You first say kilayim bekerem. So alma min yereku. That means it's a vegetable. Vehadatani elu ve'elu modim shechaya beorla. And then you tell me at the end of the same sentence that's chaya beorla, which means it's tree. So is it a vegetable or is it a tree? Make your mind. Says the Gemara, hello kasha. It's not a kasha. Bet Shammai sfuki mesaf kalehu. Bet Shammai really is unsure, right? Bet Shammai has a question of what this is. They don't know if this bush, has anyone seen caper bush? It's not really clear what it is. It's not. If you could see it in Rabbi Google has pictures of it. You can see it's not clear if it's a tree or not a tree or vegetable. It's like, you have the same machloket in halacha by some of the berries. What do you say on the strawberries? What bracha do you make on it? This looks like a strawberry bush. So it's a tree, it's not a tree. Bet Shammai is mesupak. It's doubtful. Therefore, what do you do when you have doubt? In every question, they were machmir. So Bet Shammai says, oh, well, do you have to keep orla from caper bush? Yes, because we don't know, maybe it's a tree. If you ask Bet Shammai, Shammai, mechila, can I have a caper bush next to my vine? So that's absolutely not. Because maybe it's a vegetable. So they're mahmir in both. That's where Bet Shammai stands. But says Ravina, now here is where Ravina is talking to his friend's son. He says, but that by itself is good enough for you to be mekel. You know why? Because whenever you have safek or la in chutz la'aretz, what's the halacha? When you have safek, if something is considered halachically or la in chutz la'aretz or not, you could be mekel. So why in the world are you not eating the evyonot? You could eat even the evyonot. That's his whole cheshbon. He says Bet Shammai would be lenient in chutz la'aretz because they're doubtful, and whenever you have safek, you could rely on that. Mikol makom, Ravina says to Marba Ravashi that Bet Shammai have a safek orla. It's going to be safek orla utnan, and we learned in the Mishnayot in orla in Perek Gimel halacha in Mishnah Tet, safek orla be'eretz Yisrael asur beSuria mutar. When you have safek orla in Eretz Yisrael, you have to be machmir. In Syria, in Aram Sova, right? In Syria, you could be mekel if you have safek. Why Syria makes a difference, by the way? Because David HaMelech conquered Syria, right? For the Syrians in the Chevra, right? And he was Mekadesh Syria as well. So he has a higher level close to Eretz Yisrael. And in Chutz La'aretz, you could even go buy from someone that's chashud on orla. Imagine you have somebody that you very much doubt if he keeps orla, and you really think he's going to sell to you orla without telling you. In Chutz La'aretz, in Syria, you cannot do that. In Chutz La'aretz, you could even buy fruits from this guy that probably is going to give you orla, but it's not for sure. So long as you don't see him take from the orla and feed you, you could even buy from him in Chutz La'aretz. So even if it's not a 50-50 safek, it's not safek a shakul, it's not an equal safek, he could still be lenient, says the Gemara, right? So long as you don't see him pick from the orla, you could buy from him. So you see that even if you have a little safek in chutz la'aretz, you could be mekel. So why aren't you eating it? And says the Gemara, the ultimate answer that you mentioned, Rabbi Akiva b'makom Rabbi Eliezer avdinan kivate. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, both of them are legitimate shitas. Whenever you have a legitimate shita in Eretz Yisrael, you could rely on it in Chutz La'aretz, even though that in Eretz Yisrael you don't pass it like that. But it's enough to be relied upon in Chutz La'aretz, in Los Angeles. But Bet Shammai b'makom Bet Hillel ena Mishnah. When you have machloket Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, you completely disregard Bet Shammai as if it doesn't exist, because there was the Gemara says in Yevamot of Yud Gimal that there was a bat kol that came and said halacha is like Bet Hillel. It's as if Mishamayim Bet Shammai was completely rejected, so it's not even a safek. It's as if it doesn't exist. Shita Bet Shammai. Therefore, you cannot rely when it comes to Orla, even on Chutz La'aretz, you cannot rely on Bet Shammai, and therefore he had to trash the actual fruit, the Evyonot, in the first 3 years, and he only could have the Has, the Kafrisin, and that is the Halacha. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue this fascinating topic.
Good, you're the man. You got this set up, right? Good job.